Welcome back to Fireside Giants, guys. Following the Giants' really ugly loss to the Detroit Lions. I mean, there's a lot to say, and there's not a lot to say at the same time. It's like they just played really shitty, guys. That was one of the worst games we've seen, if not the absolute worst game we've seen under Brian Dable's leadership. Nothing was good enough today. The penalties, the inefficiency across the board. But I'll tell you what, the Giants, the injuries, man. When is it going to end? You know, Adoree Jackson, and I want to point to the fact that Adoree Jackson being a punt returner was one of the dumbest things that we could have ever seen. Like every single person said the same thing. This is going to end badly. This is going to end in Adoree Jackson being injured. And what do you know? Ends up being injured with a knee issue. We don't know how bad it is. Apparently reports are coming out that he's going to be out 3 to 5 weeks as an MCL sprain. When does it end? You know what I mean? Like, this is just getting out of control in terms of, the injuries and the number of them. And, you have Jason Pinnock going down with a jaw injury, Wan'Dale Robinson holding his knee. Apparently he was in a ton of pain. We don't know exactly what the diagnosis is on that yet, but I'll tell you what, didn't look really pretty, and he couldn't even walk on his right leg. He might be out for the rest of the season. He might have a torn ACL. Knock on wood. Please, God, do not let him have a torn ACL. We cannot afford for him to go down. He had 100 yards, his first 100-yard performance. He looks so good today. There's a lot to break down, Anthony. I mean, just the loss in general was ugly, but the injuries hurt a little bit more than the loss, in my opinion. We could afford to lose this game, but only if everyone was healthy. And right now we're staring down a Thursday game against Dallas on Thanksgiving that is giving me the shivers already. This could be ugly. We're down so much talent. How are you reacting after this game? How are you feeling after this game? I mean, I just demoralized me completely.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty demoralized as well. This was a really, really ugly game. In my opinion, by far the worst coached game of the Brian Dable tenure so far. I thought that Mike Kafka, the two of them, just offensively, they didn't do a good job. I thought that the decision to put Adoree Jackson out there as a punt returner, I agree with you, Alex. That was a stupid decision, to put it plainly. There's no reason that a starting cornerback, your CB1, should be out there returning punts. Of all of the players in your lineup, not the CB1. That just doesn't make any type of sense to me. And honestly, if they were having him out there to return the punts, it should have been a rule. Don't even touch the thing. Don't run with the thing. Just let it bounce. All the wind, all of the injury possibilities. It was just plain stupid. Saquon Barkley was non-existent in this game. I mean, the Detroit Lions had the second worst rush defense in the NFL entering this game, and they completely bottled up Saquon Barkley. Daniel Jones was the entire lifeline, the entire pulse and heartbeat of the Giants offense today. He did all that he could, but 2 interceptions, so he didn't do enough. He didn't get the ball in the end zone other than on 1 rush. No passing touchdowns. Wan'Dale Robinson did all that he could until he got injured. John Feliciano went injured as well. Yeah, you're right. He did. Towards the end of the game, he had one. But still, point still stands. The Giants offense just did not do enough. It was a poorly called game. 3rd and 5, and they decide to run, gain 0 yards. 4th and 5, nothing there. Obviously, it was just bad play calling, bad execution. The whole game plan from the offensive side of the ball was really, really poor. And again, I think that Daniel Jones did all that he could. I was actually impressed with a lot of the throws he made today, and he was by far the standout performer for the Giants offense. But other than that, there are not a lot of positives to draw from this game. The Detroit Lions topped 30 points. I said that in the days leading up to this game. That was something the Giants needed to look out for. If they let Detroit top 30 points, can the offense actually do that? I don't think so, man, because the Giants offense hasn't scored 30 points in a long time. So the defense, I mean, it was kind of the bend don't break thing that we always see, but that only works when the offense is actually executing, not turning the ball over and scoring points. And unfortunately, the Giants offense just didn't come to play today. They put up a measly 18 points. And again, it was just a really poor performance. I thought this was by far the worst coach game from Brian Dable so far. And hopefully this is one that he takes a look at, says, you know what, I screwed up. This is how I'm going to be better. And maybe, we got a quick turnaround here. We play on Thursday on Thanksgiving against the Cowboys. Hopefully the Giants are able to turn this around. Brian Dable could come out there, learn from this experience, and hopefully put out a good showing on Thanksgiving.
I mean, look, the only thing I can really say right now in terms of like bad coaching was I think that Adoree Jackson situation, that was like the one thing that stood out to me as a big problem. Everything else, the penalties. I mean, look, you're playing with like half a practice team right now. Like these guys are all practice squad players. Isaiah Hodgins, you know what I mean? Matt Pert was playing. Shane Lemieux started at left guard. He hasn't played in like freaking 2 years. What are you going to do? John Feliciano got knocked out. Tyree Phillips, our backup right tackle, got knocked out with a neck injury. What do you do at this point? Like, no matter how good your coaching is, you can't supplement having third, fourth, fifth stringers on the team. I mean, what do you do? There's nothing you do. And, call me crazy. I thought Daniel Jones played pretty well. I thought that aside from those 2 interceptions, and I know those are inexcusable, the first one just didn't see Aiden Hutchinson who dropped back into coverage on the crossing route. That was a really good play by him. That was a really good, recognition of what Giants were trying to do. A lot of those crosses with Darius Slayton, drop back, nailed it. The second interception was a 4th and 5, just trying to make something happen. The Giants were down, needed to get something on the board. And, just it happens. You try to make a play and, Daniel Jones made a mistake. But otherwise, his stats are pretty damn good. 341 yards, a touchdown through the air, had 7 carries for 50 yards and a touchdown on the ground. Had some really nice throws. He was 27 for 44, only took 2 sacks, made some good decisions throwing the ball away. I know you can't erase the interceptions, but like if you look at the positives, there was a lot of positives from Daniel Jones today. There was 18-mile-an-hour winds today, guys. Throwing into that type of wind is not easy. You know what I mean? The running game, nowhere to be found. If you want to put some blame on somebody, put some blame on the offensive line. Daniel Jones had a good game as a quarterback, and the offensive line gave Saquon Barkley 22 yards on 15 carries. You know what I mean? Like this is, you're talking about, an offense that was basically inept, but DJ I thought played decent. You could argue with me, and that's totally fine. But look at his receivers. Wan'Dale Robinson gets knocked out. Darius Slayton's his WR1. For goodness sake, Richie James, who we all castrated 2 days ago for dropping all those punts and fumbling those punts away, was playing in the second half. Guys, Kenny Golladay, Isaiah Hodgins. These guys are not supposed to be playing on NFL rosters. Most of them. Isaiah Hodgins is a Buffalo practice squad player 2 weeks ago. Lawrence Cager was a practice squad on the Jets player 2 weeks ago. Richie James should never be seeing the field again. Darius Slayton's probably a wide receiver 4 or 3 maximum on another team that's better than ours. And Kenny Golladay is just he can't do anything. You know what I mean? What do you expect Daniel Jones to do? Like, I feel bad for the guy. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I don't think he could have played better in some respects. I think that the interceptions, he definitely should have seen some of those things. Definitely could have done some different things. But ultimately, like, I'm not pinning this blame on him whatsoever. I'm putting this blame on the Giants getting injured and the fact that they are utilizing a myriad of backup players. And that's just the reality of the situation. We have outplayed expectations up to this point. We're 7-3 on the season right now in week 11. That's far better than we could have imagined. Eagles, just by the graces of the football gods, snuck out a win today over the Indianapolis Colts. So that was definitely tough for the Giants. But look, right now we're going into Dallas on a short week. We probably are going to be out a lot of our players. Wan'Dale Robinson's definitely not playing. Adoree Jackson's definitely not playing. John Feliciano, who knows? Tyree Phillips, who knows? Maybe Evan Neal comes back at the very best. But right now, the Giants are staring down the barrel of a definitely an ugly situation on the injury front. But, Anthony, when you're looking at who's got to step up here? Who are you looking at right now? Because the defense, the secondary, like they had Nick McLeod, Rodarius Williams, Julian Love back there. We're shredded. We're in freaking pieces right now. The defensive line is healthy, but they can't cover back there unless if Dexter Lawrence playing boundary corner, and it's not sustainable what they're trying to do. And the offense, they don't even have anyone. The fact they're putting any freaking points on the board at all is beyond me. Is the people will point to the play calling, but look at the players that we have. How do you get the most out of guys who have been on the team for 2-3 weeks? You know what I mean? This is ridiculous. I'm not blaming Mike Kafka for not being able to put points on the board. We have high expectations, but look at what he's working with. There's nothing there, guys. And Shane Lemieux, for the record, he was benched at halftime. Just awful. I mean, for goodness sake, I don't think I've seen a worse run blocking performance. And then I'll give him benefit of the doubt because he hasn't played in like 2 years, so I'm not going to say he can't get better. But it was just god awful. Josh Azudu came in there and they immediately looked better. Matt Breida made some plays. But when you're looking at this team right now, what are you seeing? Because right now I'm demoralized, but more so because of the injuries than anything else.
Yeah, this was an ugly win, but the losses just make it, or the injuries, an ugly loss, but the injuries just make it so much worse. It's like losing 6 games in one is how it feels, right? I mean, the Giants go out there. It looked okay at the start. The Giants had a lead at some point in this game. They squandered that opportunity, but what did you expect them to do with all of those injuries? Again, it's like losing multiple games at once because you're looking at this roster now, looking at the lineup and saying, who plays here now? And now who plays here? Who do we put at this position? Who goes at this one? You just have no idea. And now the Giants are going to have to go to different practice squads, maybe into the free agency pool, and just find any and everybody who's willing to put on a Giants uniform to go out there and play. I mean, at this point, Alex, we might start getting some phone calls and offers to play for the rest of the season, because I don't know where else the Giants are going to look. There is just no opportunity for the Giants to fix this. This is actually catastrophic. You look at the rest of the schedule that the Giants have ahead of them. Yeah, they're playing Dallas on Thanksgiving, and then they're going to be playing Washington and Philly twice in the rest of the season. And they also have to play Minnesota, one of the best teams of football, and Indianapolis, who just went toe-to-toe with Philadelphia. This is the toughest schedule in football remaining. They have the toughest opponent win percentage out of all of the teams in the NFL. Like, the Giants are not going to be able to just cruise control their way into the postseason. They have to start coming up with some very difficult wins, some clutch victories down the stretch here. And that task just became even more difficult, considering the fact that the Giants are now shorthanded in pretty much every single position group, whether that be the skill positions, whether that be the offensive line, the defensive line. I mean, we've suffered a slew of injuries there this season. The secondary, everywhere that you can look, the Giants are just decimated by injuries. And I don't know what they can do going forward here to try and fix this problem. And it's getting really scary when you look at it, because this was really the last gimme on the Giants' schedule. This game right here against Detroit, the last time they were going to face someone with this heavy of a losing record, and they squandered that opportunity. The Giants lost this game, and they're not going to have any games like this on the rest of their schedule where they can go in and say, we are the favorites to win this. The Giants are going to have to be underdogs for the rest of the year, like they were for the beginning portion of the season. Unfortunately, though, it feels like the Giants have a bad tendency now to play down the competition when they go into these games. Even if they are the favorites, they're playing at the same level or worse as the other team. It's a horrible habit that they created pretty early on the season, and they haven't been able to break it. And now you are feeling the effects of that. And especially as you look at this Giants team and say, are they better? Is this roster actually better than any of the teams we're about to face for the rest of the season? It's very debatable when you factor in the fact that we are without Evan Neal, Azeez Ojulari, Xavier McKinney, Adoree Jackson. The list goes on and on and on. The New York Giants, man, decimated with injuries, a disgusting, ugly loss with terrible play calling today and poor performances across the board. Unless Saquon Barkley comes into these next few games and goes on a tear, averages 150 yards per game, I don't really see the path to victory being too clear in any of these matchups. This is going to be really tough for the Giants. So they're going to need a difference maker here. They're going to need Brian Daboll to get his stuff together, look at this game, recognize where he went wrong, and fix it immediately, because this is a kind of that really crucial point of the season going into Thanksgiving, where if you start losing games now, it's a very slippery slope, and you can absolutely play your way out of the playoffs. Despite having a 7-2 record going into this game, 7-3 now, it can get worse and worse. This is the worst time of the year to start playing bad football, and right now we are seeing the worst football that the Giants have played all year long.
Yeah, and some good news on the injury front. I'm just reading now that Adoree Jackson's X-rays did come back clean, and he said that it seems like he's going to be okay, and that they kind of dodged a bullet there. So I don't know if he'll play on Thursday, but at the very least, Adoree Jackson doesn't seem to have any significant damage to his knee or anything like that. And Brian Daboll said after the game, it's football. It is what it is. I still do not agree with his decision to use him as a punt returner, but we move forward, and hopefully Adoree can come back in a week or two, and we'll see what happens. But Wan'Dale's definitely a little bit more of a concern to me. Maybe, God, I mean, just to hear that the pain he was in, I mean, it definitely doesn't sound very good. But goodness, this is a interesting situation if you're a Giants fan. We're kind of sitting here like, what do we expect from now on? The Giants have one of the most difficult schedules remaining, and their team is basically destroyed, decimated from head to toe. But we've really outplayed ourselves this year, and I think that the expectations that were set for us, we've definitely smashed those, and I think that's a good thing. We're definitely heading in the right direction. If we didn't have all these injuries right now, I'd be sitting here saying that we're in a pretty good spot. We may be able to push for a playoff spot, but injuries are part of the game, of course. Hopefully, the Giants do end up changing the turf next year to artificial grass, which I don't know what the difference is or what that looks like, but it does seem like they're going to make a change there after all the players, kind of complained about it. But, guys, this was a tough game. Ultimately, the Giants didn't come out on top in this one, but, we've seen them win some of these closer games. The Lions looked good, so credit to them. They looked good. They came in here and they took care of business. So I'm definitely excited to see, what the Giants can do in terms of bouncing back. We'll see. Playing Dallas, Daniel Jones, that really, really good defensive line over there. It's a tough challenge. So they got to come up with a brilliant scheme to take advantage of that, which is borderline impossible. But guys, I'd love to hear your perspectives and opinions below about this game in the YouTube comments section. As always, my friends, make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Giants episode.
TVSO.